Welcome back to the Black Tie Lounge. Thank you all for joining us again tonight. And tonight we are joined by an amazing guest, Dave Haslop from AusCon and My Money Expo. So welcome, Dave. Thanks heaps for joining us.
That's all right. Thanks for having me on.
We've made lots of fun tonight. Really looking forward to tonight's episode. One of the key things that you may or may not be aware of, we dropped the Future of Funding and Innovation Outlook report last week. So whilst that report's been really amazingly readily accepted and looked at, it's been great to chat. There was one key thing that we wanted to look at. You know, we thought about who's had this journey about what these investors and innovators came to us about that report, was talking to us, you know, who would resonate to sort of break this down and have a bit of a fireside chat. And Dave came to my mind simply because I think he's had an amazing journey with Crypto Den, AusCon, now My Money Expo, running those in Australia, now straddling to New Zealand. And that was the key reason that we said, let's get Dave on. Outside of that, we love having a chat. We thought you'd be really great to have a chat about your perspective about what these investors and innovators are talking to us about this report. So thanks heaps for joining us again. As always, we will run a Q&A session at the end of this webinar. So keep your questions. We'll let you know when to post them online, and for Dave and I will be hanging around after the webinar, more than happy to answer them for you. So Dave, welcome again. You have built both AusCon, My Money Expo into major platforms for innovators and investors. So can you talk to us maybe a little bit tonight about what inspired this journey? You know, because, you know, I knew at the beginning of the journey, but why did you come on that journey? You know, because it's a big one.
Yeah, well, I mean, it feels like it's a 10, 20-year journey by this point, but we've only been operational now for the last 5 years. So obviously it started with AusCryptoCon, but for me personally, it started a little bit further back than that. So with the Crypto Den and, you know, all of the involvement I had in the crypto space and growing an education platform and things like that. So, and now obviously we've sort of branched into the TradFi side of things with My Money Expo. So, I mean, it started as a way of, I was educating people online, right? And, you know, probably a good 80% of people that I would speak to about digital assets and crypto would say, it's a scam, or it's a pyramid scheme, or, you know, whatever garbage they'd come back with. So then I thought, well, let's create something physical. Let's build a place that people can actually attend. It's not just on the internet. And it's not magic internet money, and they can meet the businesses that are building in the space, you know. So, and it lets people know that it is actually real, and so that's how it started. The idea started, and then, as you know, I brought on Matthew and Adam, and together we built an incredible event that's now been running for 5 years, and in our 5th year this year, and we just launched it in New Zealand only 2 weeks ago for the first time, which was a huge milestone for us, and we had a great turnout and things went really well. And then we said, well, let's not just stop there. Like there's a lot more ground to cover here, and My Money Expo was born, and you know, we're going to run My Money Expo alongside CryptoCon in Sydney this year at the exact same time, and you know, let the two worlds collide together, and hopefully we'll have a good show, and there'll be a massive amount of education shared, and I think people will get a lot out of both camps.
Absolutely. I mean, we're exhibiting at My Money Expo, you know, because that suits our business and what the asset managers are doing. But maybe share with us about what's so different between AusCon and My Money Expo, you know, because I know you've split the events purely from pressure of attendees and what the market is asking you to do.
I mean, AusCryptoCon is all about digital assets, right? So the idea there is to educate everyday people on what digital assets actually is. And those of us in the space, we know that it is the future of finance, and traditional finance will run on blockchain technology, and people won't even know you're using blockchain technology.
That's right.
So we have AusCryptoCon in one one camp, and then My Money Expo right next door. And the idea is that My Money Expo is for everybody that wants to learn about everything from real estate to stock investment, forex markets, commodities, anything that's in that traditional finance space. That's the event for them. But if they want to learn more about the digital asset sector and how those two worlds are going to join together, then all they've got to do is walk right next door, and there's 10,000 other people that share the same curiosities. And, we've got 8 stages across 2 events, and probably land on about 200 speakers across the weekend. So, a lot of people with a lot of knowledge to share, and a lot for other people to learn. And even in CryptoCon the last couple of years, we've noticed a really big trend and the feedback from exhibitors has been that the sophistication level of the people attending the event is getting better and better each year.
Absolutely.
So people are looking for more ways to invest their assets. The older generation and the boomers and everyone, like the people that have that investable asset sitting there, they're trying to find more ways to diversify. So why not create 2 events side by side that covers every single area of investment?
Yeah, and everything you're saying totally resonates, because, as I said, I've been there at your events, your first events, up to events now, and investors are increasingly getting more astute. The Web3 / blockchain space is now crossing over into all those financial sectors, and as you've rightly pointed out, you might be using a platform that you don't even realize is on the blockchain because of how those user interfaces are now working. So it's really just becoming that financial infrastructure. One of the things we found out on the report, and what really popped out, was how much these investors are now increasingly looking for innovation-led opportunities. And it's really the time, right, from what this report is showing for us, for digital assets, tokenisation, alternative investments in Australia. So it's like you're hitting and opening this expo at the perfect time.
Well, I think especially younger generations, people are becoming more financially curious, right? So in a similar way that, people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, we love to have a good drink in our early 20s, right? And we like to party and we like to have fun. People in their early 20s don't do that anymore. Everything's about health and fitness and reading books and entrepreneurship, and it's all changed. So that financial literacy is becoming more common in younger people, and they've become significantly more educated in finance and investments, but significantly more skeptical too, which is a good thing. They're asking questions. They're asking the right questions. So for us, it's about putting the right people on stage to answer those questions.
Absolutely. And that really comes down to that evolution, isn't it? And that's the information age that everyone has at these fingertips. Right now, you can get an offer or an ad or whatever it is that you're looking at, drop it into some AI, and the AI is going to rip it to shreds. So we didn't have that experience when we were first dabbling into crypto, right? It was trial and error. Was this a scam? Was it not? You would have gone through a lot of that with the crypto den. It's completely different.
Yeah, it was, what do they call it? Trial by fire. Trial by fire.
That was it. That was how we managed the market at the time, wasn't it?
Yeah, basically just, the ICO boom was throwing shit at a wall and hoping it sticks, yeah? So that's about all you could do back then.
Absolutely. And I think, again, it's fantastic, mentioning these events. When you can do that research before, when you can go out and meet them and touch these people, for us, it's our asset managers. So, as I was talking to you before, we've got a whole lounge at My Money Expo. All our asset managers are there. So anyone who wants to come, touch, feel, talk, don't feel them up too much, but talking to them, really getting a feel for what's been happening, they're able to do that. And it's so important for that transparency and for that understanding. And that's why the crowds keep coming to your events.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot to be said for in-person conversations. You can do a lot on Zooms, and even then, especially with the rise of AI, sometimes you're not even sure if you're talking to a person anymore. So to be able to go and speak to the companies that are helping run the industry and grow the space, it just gives people a level of confidence. And let's face it, when you're investing your money, the thing you need most of outside of the money itself is investor confidence. So, there's really no comparison to attending an in-person event, whether it's our events or somebody else's event. It doesn't matter. Just attend the events and learn as much as you can and actually speak to the people that are making the wheels turn.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that came up in our report was lack of reliable information and transparency, and how, I guess from some of the, people in the industry, or some of your exhibitors, how is that industry bridging the gap?
I think by offering transparency first. So the biggest thing we've seen, I'm not sure if you remember, a couple of years back, there's a big exchange hack, and then all the exchanges went, you know what, we're going to do a proof of reserve. We're going to show the public that we've got the assets to back up what we're selling here. And I think that idea has been adopted by pretty much everyone in their own way and in their own verticals. So I think, especially in the Web3 space, we're seeing a lot more of it, where people are just being transparent upfront. This is what we do. This is what we're selling. This is how much we cost. These are where your assets are held. This is what we're investing in. And you've got real-time access to it 24/7, And I think the TradFi world, especially with more adoption of blockchain technology, will provide that same level of investor confidence and transparency. So I think by just offering everything and putting it all on the table, it's becoming almost like a new fad, and that's a good thing.
It is. Yeah. It's really the new norm, isn't it? I mean, if you go to a website now and they claim they do this, but you can't find any, way they're bringing that forward, that transparency in a transparent manner, that's sort of one of your first flags. So bringing all that stuff forward, really, it's not, should we do it? It's really, you have to do it. And it should be done, which is great.
Yeah, and I think by saying it's the new norm is a good thing, and it actually highlights something that's been bugging me lately. As you know, we spoke earlier, I'm looking for, to head over to New Zealand, and I've been looking at some properties over there. And one of the things that really bugs me about real estate ads is there's a little disclaimer on the bottom of the photo saying that the grass has been digitally enhanced. Just don't do it,
Yeah. Not when you're looking for a farm, no.
I appreciate the transparency, guys. That's great, but just don't do it.
Don't do it. Oh, goodness. One of the key things too, because we were talking about that before as well, is talent. So Australia's got a huge talent, I think, in the Web3 space. We always punch above our weight, and innovation. We've invented so many great things for this world. But we're still lagging behind. So from your perspective, what do you think needs to change to really push Australia to the global market as a genuine innovation leader in this space that we're in?
Look, I think, and it's always going to be a controversial topic, and I don't mind jumping into it, but I just think that innovation needs to be more encouraged and not punished. And Australians, I mean, we've seen it with Albo's new garbage he's bringing out. Australians are moving offshore. Australians are getting out of the country to start their businesses, or they're moving their companies offshore because there's just no reason to innovate here anymore. There's no incentive to innovate. And I think rather than encouraging it, the government's at best delaying it and borderline punishing people for it. So, and they're taxing people through the nose. So, I think that we need to remove all the roadblocks. Let's give innovators, let's give entrepreneurs a little bit of space to operate in, tax them fairly, regulate them fairly, but give them a little bit of space. Let's evolve at the same time with the regulators rather than having our hands tied behind our backs. And I think that's the biggest roadblock for everyone in this country. And that's the biggest reason why people are moving offshore. We've seen it year after year, right? Like we have exhibitors that they've built a company in Australia, they exhibited our events, and then the next year we talk to them and they've moved operations offshore. They've moved to Singapore, they've moved to Dubai. This happens every single year with dozens of different companies that we work with. So, the trend is pretty clear and the writing's on the wall that the government needs to just get out of the way a little bit and let us build shit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm assuming from your enthusiastic response that you've just given us that you haven't seen any change in that emerging at this point in time.
No, I think it's getting worse. I mean, there's organisations like DECA that they're working with Australian government around regulations, and they're lobbying for better regulations. And there's slow movement happening around the crypto space in its own vertical. But as a whole, like the new tax reforms and things like that, it's 2 steps forward, 10 steps back at this point. So,
100%. And it just moves into they're not interested in innovating. They're not interested in supporting. It all comes back down control and tax grabbing.
Exactly. And you know what? New Zealand's the opposite at the moment. I mean, New Zealand seems that, like at NZ CryptoCon, we had numerous government representatives on stages. We had people from IRD, which is their version of ATO, the FMA, which is their version of ASIC, and some parliamentary speakers. And the tone in the air was positive. It was, hey, we're here to listen and we're here to work with you, not just tax you for no reason. So I think the Kiwis are doing something right, and I think Australia could follow suit.
So have you opened the door and invited all the regulators and the ATO and everything to AusCon and My Money Expo in November?
We've extended some invitations. Hopefully we get some acceptance there.
That'd be nice.
And hopefully there's just some constructive conversation there. It's not about debating. It's not about fighting. It's about having and building something constructive together that's going to benefit, the companies that are being built. Still pay your fair taxes, still pay your dues to whatever we have to do, but just do it fairly. That's all we ask for. We're not asking for any discounts. We're not asking for anything that doesn't already exist, but just stop making it harder. Stop making it worse.
Yeah, 100% agree. So as a segue to that, some of the emerging sectors. Now, in our report, we found that there's a big investor interest in technology, AI, healthcare, biotech, and blockchain. Do you think they're the hot 5 sectors right now?
Yeah, the AI is obviously impossible to ignore at the moment.
Yeah.
It's going to impact virtually every industry over the next decade. So definitely any kind of AI investment. But as I said to you off camera before, that the AI space at the moment is very similar to the ICO space of 2017 in the crypto world, because you don't know what's real and you don't know what's crap. So, everybody's claiming to have an AI company and they're doing AI agents and this and that. And, it's all marketed very well. Excuse me, but you've got to sift through all the garbage to really find the diamond. So I think after a couple more years and a little bit more regulation around it as well, I think that'll get easier. But there's definitely opportunity there for sure. I think the biggest wealth transfer of the next decade won't just be from one asset class to another. It'll be from those who understand emerging technologies and innovation to those who ignore them. So,
totally.
If it's a case of get on board or get left behind.
Look, 100%. And we talk about it all the time in our teams. We set out with the whole notion, and most people in the blockchain space talked about, we want to democratize this, we want to democratize investment, but in reality sets in, you always end up running a hybrid type model. And a lot of it is about education, accessibility. Do you think we're entering in this period now where everyday investors and, everyday people are getting these opportunities that, we all set out to give them on the chains when they first came out?
Yeah, definitely. Up until now, there's certain assets and asset classes that everyday people couldn't even access, right? So you had to be some kind of sophisticated investor or institution or family office or something to even access some of these investment opportunities. So by tokenizing it, and we've just seen that with the SpaceX IPO, right? Every crypto exchange out there that got their hands on any of that release were selling tokenized shares essentially in the IPO for SpaceX. So ordinarily you'd had to be a sophisticated investor to get access to that. And now anyone that's over the age of 18 and has access to a crypto exchange can now get access to those types of investment vehicles. So yeah, I definitely see the access becoming a huge advantage for people in the future.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing how they pulled that together pretty quick as well. So the speed they can turn it around now is pretty frightening.
Yeah, I think old Musk's got some sway.
Just a tad. Now, education has obviously been the cornerstone of what Ozcon and My Money, is set out to do as well over the years. I guess how important is more education coming out to Australians, New Zealanders? Are you finding it easier to get that education out there to them, or is it still a major, major task?
It's a bit of both. Like I said before, like financial literacy is now being sought out. People, especially young people, are wanting to learn more about it. Older generations are even more open to learning more about new technologies. So I actually had a chat with a really lovely guy. I can't remember his name now. It's on the tip of my tongue. In New Zealand, and he's come to all of our events. And he's a farmer. He's got thousands of head of cattle, and he'd be probably close to his 70s maybe. And he's an early Bitcoin investor, but he wanted to learn about it. And I think we're seeing more and more people that are seeking education rather than us trying to sell them education. You know what I mean? Like for us, I like to call us like probably get in trouble for this, like the Jehovah's Witnesses of finance, right? So
asked me about swearing, and now you're bringing religion into it. Come on, break, man.
But it's like I had people knock on my door one Sunday morning, and my question to them was, "Why do you do this?" And they said, "Well, if you believe in something strong enough, we want to spread that word." And for us, digital assets and tokenization and the future of finance and where the finance collides with technology, the writing's on the wall for us. So it's about helping your next door neighbor and say, hey, the world's changing. You need to change with it or you're going to get left behind. And in a world where everyone's struggling financially and everything's just getting harder and harder, I find people are becoming a little bit more or a little less tall poppy and more so wanting to help educate each other and help other people become a little bit more financial literate. So in terms of, is it harder to educate? I'd say no, because people are seeking the education out. And that's something that's probably relatively new, especially in our space that we operate in.
Totally. It is the new way. All our kids are brought up with unit of inquiries now, right?
I mean, my son, he's 9 years old and he keeps saying, teach me how to trade, teach me Bitcoin, teach me how to read charts. And he's a clever little kid and, he'll learn it really early on and he'll have that advantage over other kids that aren't being taught financial literacy. Yeah,
absolutely. Now, we've got a couple more questions that I'm going to hassle you for, Dave. So if you have questions, start preparing them and we'll get them put up after these questions. But just looking ahead, what is in store for us all at the Ozcon and My Money Expos in November?
Look, the thing that I'm most excited about is just the two worlds colliding. So we're onboarding some world-class talent at the moment, everything from real estate to ASX trading, asset tokenization, stock market, commodities, obviously everything that's in the crypto space as well. So, I mean, the content is key. Like, come and visit the exhibitors, grab your swag bags, have a bit of fun, introduce yourself to people, learn from other people, but really the idea is to take in as much information as you can. And we find there's two types of people that will attend. You've got people that are there purely for the education, and then you've got people that will make partnerships that work in the biz, right, or in these spaces. So, and we see so many deals done every single year, in the tens of millions of dollars worth of capital that flows through the events. So that's pretty exciting. But for me personally, I'm most excited about seeing those two worlds collide because we talk about DeFi and we talk about TradFi as two separate things. And over the next couple of years, we're going to see it merge and everything's just going to be Fi. It's just going to be finance and they're both going to operate together.
Someone had a name for it the other day. It escapes me, but it wasn't a pretty name. That's probably why it escapes me. They were trying to merge them together.
I just think it's exciting if you've got an opportunity to go to one place, and if you're an average punter and you've got a little bit of investable capital there, and you can go to one place and learn, how do I invest into crypto and what do I look for from experts that have spent years teaching it. And at the same time, you can go and sit at a stage and learn from a mum and dad real estate investor of how they made, a good capital return investing in the real estate market, and giving yourself the opportunity to learn how to really diversify your own portfolio, no matter how small it is. You can start as an 18-year-old with $1,000. But it's about getting yourself in that mindset and learning how money works, learning how debt works, how finance works. And once you understand that, then you know how to make the money you do have and the money you will get work for you in the future. And
that's right.
In a world, like I said, that's struggling, it's exciting to build a place where people can come to and actually learn that.
Yeah, and learn how to make their money work, better for them, like smarter, not only smarter, but, how to work overtime, which is what a lot of the DeFi programs can do for people, which is really important, because it can't work at the pace that it did work for our parents, because it's just not enough, is it?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a shift, a societal shift once every 100 years, right? Like we had the Industrial Revolution, and now we've got the Technological Revolution, and the digital finance is the next big thing. And there's not going to be another one for another 100 years.
That's it. Mm-hmm.
So every couple generations there's an opportunity to capitalize on something, and this is our chance. The next one might not come for 100 years or 50 years, or who knows, with AI it could be every 2 years. We just don't know.
Around the corner.
Exactly.
Now, one question for you, because you've spent years connecting founders, investors, emerging technologies. Looking back, what surprised you most about Australia's investment community? What gives you the greatest optimism for the future? Because you've known a lot of these guys and the path they've been on.
Look, hands down, like I said before, I think seeing younger people seeking education around finance is something totally new. I don't think, like when I was a kid growing up, we weren't taught anything about finance or taxes or investments or none of that. At school, not by our parents, grandparents, whether they didn't know themselves to teach us, or it just wasn't the done thing. I couldn't tell you. But the biggest thing that surprises me now is the amount of children that come to our events. And I'm talking under 10.
Yeah, wow.
Like, it's crazy. Yeah. And one kid in particular that comes to mind was actually at our Gold Coast event. His dad brought him to the event, and he needed to talk to one of our partners, Coinly, because he said, hey, my 10-year-old son has made a fortune in Bitcoin. We need to know how he pays tax.
What?
Yeah. And
a wallet. That was a KYC failure. But anyway.
So I think that's the biggest surprise, is how younger people are, like I said before, they're their health and their fitness and less the partying and drinking and all that sort of stuff. And they're more into, how can I set myself up for the future? How can I be healthier? How can I be wealthier? And what's the best path to achieve both of those things between the age of 20 and 30? And I think that's brilliant. I think it's really a positive sign for the future of the whole bloody world, really. I think that the more people that understand how money and debt and finance works, then the more transparency we're going to have from governments and government spending and so on. So, yeah, that's probably my key takeaway of the thing that's stood out the most.
So nice. Amazing stuff for sharing. We're going to move to some questions. We've got some that have come up. Not sure if you can see this date, but I'll call it out for you. So which sector are you most excited about heading into 2027? What excites you the most?
I think that, cryptocurrency or digital assets, whatever buzzword is around it, whatever year we're in, is going to become the financial layer of the AI world. So I think seeing AI and finance join together, and it'll be using digital finance to do that. Stable coins, and you're going to tell AI to go and book you some plane tickets. It's going to use USDT or something to pay for it. because it's got that online accessibility and that fractionalized ownership. So that and asset tokenization is obviously, it's been a thing for years. Many of us seen it coming years ago, Carolyn being one of them. And it's only just now really starting to grow legs. So we're seeing exchanges, like I said, give tokenization opportunities to stocks already and things like that. So I think asset tokenization is really going to boom over the next 5 years.
Yeah, which is just so needed given all the pressures that are going to be on our generations. So another one for you, Dave. Everyday investors who are curious but cautious. What's the right first steps to understanding emerging opportunities like tokenization and digital assets?
It's going to be a difficult thing to do, but finding the right educator. So whether you go through companies like ours where we run events, so we vet everyone we put on stages. So if they're on our stage, it's a reputable source. So finding that reputable source to learn from and actually putting the effort into understanding it, because it sounds scary. It sounds like there's too much to learn, asset tokenization, blockchain technology. At the end of the day, do you know how your computer runs? Do you know how your bank card works? No one cares about how the technology really works. It's about what it does. So I think a lot of people are a little burdened by and a little bit scared by, it's too hard to learn or it's too much to understand. But I think once you step into it and pay attention and start really getting the education, it might only be a couple of days or a couple of weeks and something will click and you'll go, well, it actually wasn't that hard to learn to begin with, because the idea of the technology is to actually simplify everything. The world we live in now is way more complicated than it needs to be, and blockchain technology simplifies everything so much more.
No, to hear on that one, definitely. And I think that's a great way to look at it, because it is something where it's not that scary anymore. The Wild West has been tamed a fair bit. So you've got a lot more protection, probably too much protection. That's why you might get debanked, but that's a subject for another day.
Yeah, don't get me started.
That down. But, it is something you can dip in your toe in now, reasonably protected and get some great education. But the key is you've got to do it. Don't just keep putting it on the back burner, because if you miss out,
you will get left behind. Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, I got another one here. Sounds like altcoin season all over again with AI. At least we're in a better position for the most part. Re-education. I don't know, that's a bit more of a statement, but
I'm not sure what the question is there.
I'm not sure what the question is.
It is a little bit like an altcoin season, though, and it's a bit like the ICO boom. You got to sift through the garbage to find the diamonds. But again, it just comes down to educating yourself and using it. I mean, I use AI every single day. I love AI. I love automations. I love all the things that it's doing for me. But you've got to use it to understand it. And once you understand it, you realize it's not as complicated as it seems. So I think, I mean, not that there's a question there to answer, but just to give some general advice, I suppose, would be just use it. Use AI and figure out what works and what doesn't work, and don't give anything your bank details ever, or your wallet access.
Don't give any of those chatbots or robots you're talking to personal information, the usual stuff.
Exactly.
And I think one thing with AI, people are talking about it as in, do you use it or not? But realistically, I think everyone uses it. Half the time you don't realize that you're using it, but because it's background of so much information as well, right? So
some of it's really good. I mean, Matt and I were on a meeting about a year ago, and it was with one of our partners, and we assumed that it was his EA. And we got off the call and we said to each other, was that AI? It was so good that we couldn't tell. And the only reason we picked it at all was because all of the responses were too polished. They were too perfect.
No swearing in there, was there?
Definitely none of that. Although if I built one, there would definitely be some swearing.
There would definitely be swearing. That
you wouldn't know.
On for Dave. And I will love it. I've really enjoyed this chat, as I knew I would. thank you so much again, making the time, because I know you've got a super busy schedule. So thanks for the team.
No worries. Happy to be part of it.
As well. And we are very much looking forward to seeing everyone. So if you're not coming to My Money or OzCon, make sure you get your tickets, because we're going to be there. So come and see us, but support Dave and the team, because they do an absolutely amazing job. So thanks again, Dave.
No worries. Thank you.
See ya.
Cheers.